Hi guys, happy 2025, happy new year. Hope you all had great holidays. Today is going to be probably my first video of the year and we're going to be reviewing a new release from Nomad. Now, excuse me while I butcher this name because there is no way I'm going to be able to pronounce this, but this is the Chamonix Apres Ski. Listen, I'm sorry. But this is the palette that we're going to be reviewing today. Now, I've had this palette in my hands for, I want to say, a week. It is launching on, let me just make sure I get this right, Tuesday the 14th around 12:01 a.m. EST is what the Instagram post says. So I will have that information linked down below in my description box as well as their website. Yeah, so this is the palette. It is a very wintry color story with a bunch of cool tones. And when I got this, I wasn't sure if I would love these colors personally on myself, on my skin tone. I think the color story is really fun and beautiful. But I'm not sure if these are like my best tones, if that makes sense. Now, I've had a lot of fun with this palette and I've liked the looks that I've done, so maybe it actually do suit me kind of okay still. But I'm excited to do another look with you today on camera. There are some beautiful shades in here. This one up in the middle row is one of my absolute favorite shades that Nomad has ever done. It's such a beautiful iridescent green shade. And yeah, we're just gonna have some more fun with this palette. I'll show you the other looks that I've done, obviously, at the end of the video. But I think for today's look, I kind of wanna go with something that's going to match my sweaters. So I don't know if the color is showing up very well on camera. It's almost like a very dark burgundy color. So I'm thinking I will probably use the shade in my transition and this one to deepen it up. And then probably this row here as the shimmers. I feel like I haven't used these that much. So I want to play around with those a little bit more. This one threw me off a little bit because it's actually more of a blue iridescent shade. And when I first saw this row, I thought it would be more of a pink shade, which I think would have made a little bit more sense. I think what I would have done was I would switch this to the same formula as this, but just in a more pinky tone, and then had that be a blue iridescent shade. But I also really like this shade together with, I don't know. I'm just kind of like brainstorming. But I do wish that there was a pink iridescent shade instead of the blue. But that could just be me. Yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and start. I'm gonna start by priming my eyes with my P. Louise base, and we're just gonna get into this. I've been sick so much lately, which is just freaking awful. I hate it so much. I don't know if any of you guys have had the norovirus. I think that's what they call it. It's a really, really bad stomach virus. I got it like 2 days after Christmas, and I was throwing up like all night one night, and it was just terrible. So I'm feeling back to myself again, which is nice. I do have a trip coming up in a week or so. I was gonna go away right after the holidays for New Year's, and then I got sick and I had to cancel the trip, which just sucks. I had a trip earlier, like a month ago as well, that I had to cancel because I got sick. So I'm just so paranoid right now that I'm gonna get sick again because I just hate it so much. Like, there's nothing worse than being sick, and nothing worse than being sick and having plans canceled because of it. So I'm just like crossing my fingers that everything is going to turn out okay because I really want to go on this trip. So that's basically that. So we're gonna start with the shade. I definitely could go in with this as my transition, but I think I'll be able to sheer this out enough that I don't need that. And I really just want this color. So this is the shade called Hot Savoy. I probably mispronounced that. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to Google all these shades because, listen, I don't have time for that. Yeah, I was definitely right about this being light enough to be a transition shade. That's a really pretty color, and I think it's going to look really nice with my sweater when this is all said and done. If you are interested in picking anything up from their site when it launches, I do have an affiliated code with the brand. It's just Annette, which most of my codes are. So if you're ever interested in like buying anything from a brand, just like try that code if you want to save some money. So I think that's my code with pretty much every brand except for like 2 maybe. Yeah, I really like this shade. That is beautiful. And I'm just gonna go ahead and take a little bit of that under my eye as well. I will say it's showing up a little bit lighter on the eyes than it is in the pan. Just something to keep in mind. Doesn't really bother me at all, but thought I would just mention it still. So to deepen this up, I'm gonna take the darkest shade up in the corner here because I think that's going to work well with this. And I don't think it's gonna be like a black because it does have a bit of a different undertone to it. So I don't want this to be black. And so for that reason, I think this is gonna work well. I don't want this to be a super dramatic, intense look, so I'm mostly keeping all of this just on the very outer corner of my eye. And then I'm just gonna blend whatever is left on my brush in a little bit to get a blend. Not gonna take it all the way, just about half, and just make sure that the outer corner is blended. The shade is extremely easy to work with. I'm having a super easy time getting this nice and blended and dark. So I think this is where I'm gonna leave it with the mattes. I don't want this to be a very like dark look like I was saying. Just gonna put on some glitter primer before I do the shimmers. And if you don't have a glitter primer, you really don't need this, but it's just a step that I like to do. I'm gonna use, I think, all of these three. I'm not sure how well this is gonna go because it is more of a blue, but let me go ahead and start with this one. I do wonder if I've used this already, because I have actually used probably most of the shades in this palette, and there aren't that many shimmers, so it wouldn't surprise me if I have already dipped into this. Maybe I've even done like a full look like this. Honestly, I don't remember. I'm just doing this on, I would say 70% on my lid, and I'm gonna do the lighter in the inner corner and the darker just on the outer corner. But I do want this to be the focus mostly on the lid, and this is just going to lighten up the look a little bit too. Next up, I'm gonna take this shade, and I'm not gonna use a lot of this. I'm just gonna have some to blend right into the outer corner. And let's see how it ends up looking if I take the blue iridescent shade. I actually haven't used this on my eyes yet, I don't think. So I'm not sure how this is going to look. It might have a bit of a shift to it. Let's see. No, it's definitely very, ooh, it's actually more purple than it is blue. That's interesting. I do think that these work together, but I still wish that this was a pink shade instead, I think. But then again, I feel like the blues maybe could be lacking an iridescent shade as well. So I think I just wish that all the lightest shimmers were iridescent shades. It would just make a little bit more sense, because this really is the only inner corner shade that would go with this side of the palette. But I do think that these colors look nice together, so I'm not mad at it at all. I'm definitely glad that I used a shade and I didn't pull in something else, because I do think it makes for a bit of an unexpected pop of color that I don't think I would have thought to do if I didn't just have this palette in front of me. So I think that's gonna be it for this look. I'm just gonna go ahead and finish up, and then I'll come back and show you the other looks that I've done as well. Okay, so the look is all done, and I didn't do anything fancy. I put some nude in my waterline and some lashes on, and that's it. I really like this look. Like I was saying before, I like the pop of blue in the inner corner more than I thought I would. I think it works. So let me go ahead and quickly show you the other looks that I have done as well while I give you my thoughts on this palette. So I think if you're someone who likes cool tones, I think you need to like cool tones to like this palette. I think you're gonna love this, honestly. I think the mattes in this are super nice. I've had no problems at all building, blending, mixing colors together. I think they've all performed really, really well. For the shimmers, I would say these are more of a basic shimmer formula. I wouldn't say that these are very sparkly, very intense, very metallic. They're just a pretty basic shimmer, except for some of the iridescent shades, or the green iridescent shade is very special in my opinion. I really love that shade. That is probably the most interesting out of all of the formulas in here. And the blue iridescent shade is nice as well, but I feel like the formula on that one is a little bit not chunky, just a little drier. It's a little drier than the green one, so I definitely prefer the green one, and I think in general the green row of shimmers is my favorite. But I think if you're someone who likes more of a curated color story that almost tells you what to do, in that there are, you know, rows of colors that you can follow, so that way you're not overwhelmed by choices, I think it's a very well curated palette, and I'm happy I have it in my collection. I don't think this is my favorite Nomad palette just because of the color story. It's just not really the colors that I find suit me the most with my coloring. Not that there's anything wrong with it at all, it's just like I think we all have colors that look better on us than others, and I think these aren't my perfect colors, but I still think it's a nice palette. I think the quality is nice. I really like this new packaging that they have. I don't know if it's new, but it feels different than some of the latest palettes, and this is almost like going back to what they used to do beginning of last year. I feel like they've played around with their packaging quite a bit with like different textures, and this is more of a basic palette, and I kind of like that. So I think those are going to be my thoughts. Let me know if this is a palette that you plan on picking up. I've filmed so many looks lately that I just have not made into content yet. So I'm thinking maybe I'll do like a roundup video where I show you all the looks with all the things that I've done instead of doing multiple videos with like all of the different releases, because a lot of them aren't really new releases anymore, and there's stuff that I've had in my collection for a while, just haven't gotten around to review. Let me know if you want to see that, and I can include the looks in with the reviews. Maybe that could be interesting. Just kind of everything that I've tried recently, roundup review. I don't know. Let me know if you want to see that. Otherwise, I might do separate videos on a couple of the things. I haven't quite decided yet, but those are going to be my thoughts on this palette at least. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you want to see some more Nomad content, I will put my playlist up on the screen. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.